Right, let's turn to Odesa and talk about the story we're bringing you this morning with our Ukraine correspondent James Waterhouse, that the first ship has left Odesa with grain. James, good to have you with us. So talk us through what's happened over the past couple of hours.
Nuala, this is a small but significant start. We've had days of speculation. Preparations have clearly been happening along the southern Odesa region, but finally you have it, the Grisoni, a ship. You can see it there with its blue hull and stowed cranes on top. It's carrying 26,000 tons of Ukrainian grain. It's destined for Lebanon. It will travel along this planned corridor in the Black Sea through these mine-infested waters alongside it's in range of a Russian naval blockade. It will then make its way via Istanbul, where it will be inspected like all of the vessels in this landmark deal before heading on. Now, before this war, Ukraine was known as the breadbasket of Europe. It exported 5 million tons of grain every month from its ports. That has been slashed to effectively a third because of Russia's effective closure of the Black Sea. The landmark deal last week means this ship can finally leave, but there are a lot of ifs and buts. More need to follow. There are tens of millions of people at risk of starvation unless they receive this cargo. But the hope is, from all the parties involved in this deal, is that this will form an effective routeway, a safe path out of Ukraine to allow grain to once again move across the world, Ukrainian grain, alongside what is still a very much an active war.
Yeah, it's interesting there, James, and you know, so much attention on this one ship. But I was just seeing the Secretary General of the UN saying the hopes it'll be the first of many, as you mentioned there. But is there any idea of when the second might go, or is it really waiting for this full journey to take place before more ships launch?
Well, the giveaway is how much in the dark we are being kept. We know there's another port around 25 miles to the south called Chornomorsk. We've seen demining in that area. We've seen heavy military patrols. Soldiers are very keen to know what people are up to. We're told at some point this afternoon more vessels could follow. But look, I think we need to keep this in perspective. Yes, this is significant. But when we're looking at the scale of these things, there are reports between 1, 3 or maybe 16 ships that could leave today. That is still, and pun intended, that's still a drop in the ocean for what is required, not just for Ukraine's damaged economy, but some of the poorest countries in the world, which are some of grain's biggest grain customers. So there will be universal sighs of relief in Ukraine. We've spoken to crews here who are just desperate to get back to work. They are not scared when you speak to them of the very obvious and real risks, but the ambition is for this to last for an initial 4-month period. That can be extended, but this is still fragile, and it would just take fighting to break out once for the whole deal to be in jeopardy, affecting millions of people. We've seen it before in the case of temporary ceasefires across the country, so no one is going to be getting carried away. But this, for so many in Ukraine, is a welcome sight.
And I suppose there we know that if any fighting breaks out, as you mentioned there, James, the whole deal could come crumbling down. But the fact that this has started, or perhaps could continue, does that have any reflection on, I don't know, any potential peace in the future or any softening of relations?
The short answer is no, because you just have to look at the timeline. This deal was signed last Friday. On Saturday, Russia launched missile attacks on the port of Odesa. Its defense was that it was targeting military sites, so therefore wasn't violating the deal. But in the days since, we've had airstrikes right along this coastline. The city of Mykolaiv, further around, has seen some of its heaviest bombardments this week, as well as the fighting continuing in the eastern Donbass region. This war is continuing. I think the reason Russia has engaged is because there's something in it for Moscow as well. In a parallel deal, Russia is now able to export some of its own products like grain and fertilizer, which it's previously struggled to do so because of sanctions. So Russia is getting something out of it, and it's also allowing Vladimir Putin to say, look, I am part of this solution, because as far as he is concerned, it's not Russia's fault that there is this global food crisis. It is the West, in his words, because of how it reacted to the pandemic. So there's something in it for everyone, but everyone will nervously watch on for now.
James Waterhouse, thank you so much talking us through that news, of course, that the first ship has left the port of Odesa.